How to tap into the collective unconscious, according to Carl Jung. Have you ever had a dream that felt ancient? As if it didn't belong to you alone, but to something older, deeper, and far beyond your personal story? Have you ever felt drawn to a symbol, a story, a stranger's pain, without knowing why? Carl Jung believed this wasn't just coincidence or imagination. He believed it was evidence of something vast and invisible connecting us all. The collective unconscious, a realm beneath your personal memories, a psychic ocean shared by every human who has ever lived, a place where myths are born, symbols speak, and ancestral wisdom pulses just beneath the surface of your awareness. This isn't mysticism. This is depth psychology, and according to Jung, tapping into the collective unconscious isn't just possible. It's essential if you ever hope to truly know yourself. We live in a world obsessed with the surface, thoughts, opinions, trends, identities. We think we're individuals floating around in isolation, separate stories, separate struggles. But Jung proposed something radical, that deep beneath your conscious mind lies a psychic foundation shared by all of humanity. This foundation holds ancient fears and instincts, universal symbols like the hero, the mother, the trickster, emotional patterns etched into the human soul over millennia. And it lives inside you. Whether you believe in it or not, the collective unconscious is shaping your dreams, your desires, your reactions, even your fate. Jung wrote, "In each of us there is another whom we do not know. That other isn't just your shadow. It's the ancestral memory bank of the entire human race." Imagine your personal consciousness like a candle. It burns uniquely, shaped by your experiences, your memories, your ego. But beneath that flame is the wax, the substance that fuels the fire. And that wax, that's the collective unconscious. It holds the raw psychic material that fuels every human life. The archetype of the mother, whether you had one or not. The fear of the dark, whether you've ever been harmed in it or not. The desire to belong, to love, to seek meaning, whether you've admitted it or not. These drives don't come from your biography. They come from your inheritance, your psychic DNA. We think of myths as old stories told by dead civilizations. But Jung saw myths as living blueprints of the human psyche. They aren't just tales, they're maps. And the reason we resonate with ancient stories, from Greek tragedy to tribal folklore to modern Star Wars, is because they echo the architecture of your unconscious mind. The hero's journey isn't a literary device. It's your life. The dragon, the mentor, the abyss, the return, they're not just characters. They're psychological events you will face over and over again. Jung believed that every person carries within them the entire mythological system of humanity, and that tapping into these myths, recognizing them in your life, is how you activate your deeper self. Have you ever cried during a film scene that didn't relate to your life, but hit you anyway? Have you ever stood in nature, overcome with emotion, without any words to explain it? That's not random. That's the collective unconscious moving through you, touching something pre-verbal, pre-personal, primal. It's why we dream in symbols, why we feel déjà vu, why we react so intensely to certain stories, images, or people. Jung said, "The collective unconscious appears to consist of mythological motifs or primordial images, which can reappear at any time or place." The collective unconscious isn't passive. It's alive, and if you know how to listen, it will begin to speak. Modern society worships the rational mind. We believe if we can't measure it, label it, or monetize it, it doesn't exist. But the collective unconscious doesn't speak in logic. It speaks in symbol. It shows up in dreams, synchronicities, slips of the tongue, unexpected emotions, and creative impulses. And because we've lost our connection to symbol, most people walk through life ignoring the very thing that could guide them home. We don't recognize our own dreams as revelations. We dismiss symbols as coincidences. We try to solve existential pain with productivity and positive thinking. Jung warned, the more we ignore the collective unconscious, the more it controls us. He wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That sense that you've been here before. That dream that shook you awake and stayed with you for days. That image that keeps appearing in your journal, your art, your daydreams. These aren't random. They are psychic signals, messages from the deep. And once you begin to recognize them, you begin to reclaim the ancient intelligence that's been with you since before you were born. This is the art of tapping into the collective unconscious. But how do you do it intentionally? How do you move from accidental moments of connection to a conscious relationship with this invisible realm? Carl Jung didn't just theorize about the collective unconscious. He provided practical methods to connect with this hidden realm. To truly access the wisdom of the collective unconscious, Jung taught that you must learn its language. The language of symbols. Symbols aren't decorative, they're bridges. They're how your unconscious communicates, speaking directly to your soul, bypassing rational thought and logic. When you dream of water, snakes, or ancient ruins, your unconscious isn't just creating random imagery. It's speaking in a universal code that's echoed across centuries and civilizations. But how do you decipher these symbols? How do you understand what your unconscious is trying to tell you? Let's dive into Jung's approach step by step. Jung famously said, "The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul." Your dreams aren't random noise. They're direct portals into the collective unconscious. But to access their power, you must engage with them consciously. Here's how Jung recommended working with dreams. 1. Record your dreams immediately. Keep a journal by your bed. Write every detail you can recall. Colors, emotions, even insignificant seeming symbols can hold profound meaning. 2. Notice recurring symbols. Patterns matter. If you repeatedly dream about forests, storms, or specific animals, these symbols point to important archetypal messages. They're keys your unconscious is handing you. 3. Amplify the symbol. Jung used amplification to deepen understanding. Take a dream symbol and explore its meaning in myths, fairy tales, literature, or historical texts. You're not interpreting yet, you're expanding your symbolic vocabulary. 4. Dialogue with the symbol. Once amplified, engage the symbol directly through active imagination. Jung's practice of vividly imagining yourself interacting with dream figures or symbols. Ask questions. Let the symbol speak. You'll be surprised at the clarity that emerges. Over time, dreams become your greatest guides, helping you navigate life not from logic alone, but from a deeper wisdom rooted in collective human experience. Active imagination is perhaps Jung's most direct method for tapping into the collective unconscious. It's different from passive daydreaming or visualization. It's intentional and structured, allowing you to consciously communicate with your unconscious mind. Here's how Jung recommended doing it. 1. Find a quiet, undistracted space. Relax deeply. Close your eyes and allow yourself to enter a meditative state. 2. Choose a dream symbol or spontaneous image. Maybe it's an animal, a landscape, or a mysterious figure that keeps appearing in your mind. 3. Interact with this image actively. Speak to it. Ask it who it is, what it wants, what message it has for you. Be patient, curious, and open. 4. Listen and record what emerges. It might surprise you, wisdom, emotions, or advice you didn't consciously know you needed. Jung saw active imagination as a direct dialogue with the archetypes, forces in the collective unconscious. It's how you actively cooperate with your own inner mythology. Synchronicity was Jung's term for meaningful coincidences, events connected not by logic or cause, but by meaning and symbolism. Have you ever thought about someone you haven't seen in years, and suddenly they message you out of nowhere? Or struggled with a question, only to stumble across a book or conversation that directly answers it? These moments aren't random, they're nudges from the collective unconscious. To tap into this synchronicity consciously, notice patterns, repeated numbers, symbols, or themes appearing in unexpected ways. Reflect on meaning. What does this synchronicity seem to highlight or guide you toward? Trust the resonance. If a coincidence feels meaningful, assume your unconscious is speaking. Jung called synchronicity an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Cultivate awareness of these signs, and they become your constant companions, guiding you beyond your rational mind's limitations. For Jung, creativity wasn't entertainment, it was spiritual communication. He believed art, music, poetry, and ritual were essential ways humans tap into collective truths and universal symbols. When you paint, write, dance, or create spontaneously, you bypass rational thinking and connect directly to the symbolic language of the unconscious. Try this. A draw without planning, just let images appear. Write poetry or stories spontaneously, don't censor or judge. Create a personal ritual, light a candle, meditate, chant. Let yourself be guided intuitively. These creative acts invite the collective unconscious to speak directly through you. You become a vessel, channeling deeper truths from the collective wisdom. Finally, Jung urged people to recognize their lives as mythic journeys. You're not just living a personal story, you're enacting ancient patterns. Your struggles, triumphs, losses, they're archetypal stages in a universal narrative. Feeling lost? You're in the archetypal wilderness phase, where heroes discover their strength. Facing betrayal? You're meeting the trickster, testing your discernment and inner strength. Experiencing rebirth after trauma? You're embodying the phoenix, rising from ashes stronger and wiser. When you consciously see your life in these archetypal terms, everyday struggles become purposeful. You realize you're not isolated, but connected deeply to the collective story of humanity. We live in an age of disconnection. Mental illness, loneliness, despair, all symptoms of losing touch with this collective psychic ground. Jung believed reconnecting to this depth wasn't just personally transformative, it was culturally necessary. Because when we tap into the collective unconscious, we regain meaning, belonging, and soul-deep purpose. We remember who we truly are, not isolated egos, but sacred participants in an ancient story. But what happens if we don't reconnect? If we remain disconnected from this collective wisdom? That's what we confront next, because the consequences run deeper than mere confusion. What happens when you become disconnected from the collective unconscious? Carl Jung didn't just offer insights, he also issued warnings. He understood that losing touch with our collective psychic roots doesn't just affect us individually, it impacts our entire society. Without connection to the collective unconscious, life becomes empty, fragmented, and confusing. You wander through existence wondering why nothing feels meaningful. Relationships feel shallow, goals seem pointless, pain feels random, and beneath it all, a quiet despair simmers, something essential is missing. Jung described modern humanity as spiritually impoverished, precisely because we've lost touch with these deeper psychic layers. Without symbolic understanding, we become trapped in surface-level living, craving deeper meaning but unable to access it. Look around at our world. Rates of anxiety, depression, and existential despair are higher than ever. People feel isolated even amidst crowds. We have more connection digitally, yet feel lonelier than at any point in history. Why? Because Jung believed our crisis isn't technological or political, it's spiritual. He said clearly, "The world hangs by a thin thread, and that thread is the psyche of man." When we sever our relationship with the collective unconscious, the source of deep wisdom and symbolic meaning, we're left spiritually homeless. We chase shallow pleasures, addictive distractions, and temporary escapes, mistaking comfort for fulfillment. But the soul knows better. And without the soul's nourishment, we become brittle, anxious, and desperately lost. Another consequence of ignoring the collective unconscious is the widespread phenomenon Jung termed projection. When disconnected from our collective psychic roots, we no longer recognize that what disturbs us externally often reflects our internal psychic chaos. We see enemies everywhere. Politically polarized groups demonize each other. Cultures clash, blaming others for their own unresolved fears and desires. Communities fracture because no one sees their shadow. All unconscious tension gets projected outward. Jung warned, "The psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate." Today, we live Jung's warning vividly. The conflicts we see in the world aren't merely external issues. They mirror our disconnection from our collective psychological foundation. Jung believed addiction wasn't just a medical issue, it was a spiritual symptom. When people can't access deeper symbolic meaning, they reach for substances, distractions, and escapes to fill the existential void. Social media obsessions, compulsive consumption, alcohol and drug dependence, a workaholism and numbing habits. These aren't just individual problems, they're societal signs of spiritual starvation. Because without access to the collective unconscious, people desperately search for something, anything, to temporarily quiet the psychic hunger. But no amount of external distraction can fill an internal void. Jung was clear. Healing addiction isn't merely about breaking habits. It requires reconnecting to deeper symbolic meaning that only the collective unconscious can offer. Your body also pays the price of spiritual disconnection. Jung believed deeply in the connection between psyche and soma, mind and body. When you ignore psychic needs, they don't vanish, they manifest physically. Chronic fatigue, unexplained illnesses, anxiety attacks, headaches, tension, autoimmune conditions triggered by unaddressed emotional stress. These aren't coincidences. Jung saw them as symbolic expressions, the unconscious screaming for attention, using your body as a messenger. He said, "The body is the vessel of the unconscious." Without connection to the collective unconscious, your body becomes a battlefield, forcing you to confront truths your conscious mind refuses to see. Perhaps most devastatingly, disconnecting from the collective unconscious leaves us feeling empty and purposeless. When you're disconnected from symbolic meaning, life feels random. Your days become a meaningless cycle: work, sleep, distraction. Relationships feel superficial, achievements hollow. Existential despair sets in. You wonder, why am I here? What's the point? This isn't depression in the clinical sense, it's spiritual alienation. A deep longing to reconnect with something bigger, something sacred, something your ego cannot fabricate alone. Jung called this spiritual hunger, the soul's homesickness. It's your psyche's cry for symbolic nourishment. And until answered, the ache continues. On a cultural level, disconnection from the collective unconscious leads to a soulless world. Without collective myths, rituals, or meaningful symbols, cultures decay. Society values shallow consumerism, instant gratification, and short-term pleasures, because no one knows how to seek depth. Art becomes entertainment rather than revelation. Religion becomes dogma rather than sacred connection. Community becomes convenience rather than communion. We feel lost, cynical, disconnected, not because we're inherently broken, but because we've forgotten how to tap into the very thing that once gave our lives profound meaning and purpose. Jung insisted that society without collective myth and symbolism eventually collapses under its emptiness. Yet even amidst this spiritual crisis, Jung saw hope. The collective unconscious never fully abandons us. It constantly sends messages through dreams, synchronicities, emotional crises, and even breakdowns. Your anxiety isn't random. It's the unconscious pleading to reconnect. Your repeated relationship patterns aren't bad luck. They're symbolic signals calling for awareness and integration. Your existential despair isn't punishment. It's an invitation back to soul-level meaning. Jung believed crises weren't punishments. They were sacred interruptions designed to shake us awake. And when we finally listen, our reconnection begins. But how exactly do we reconnect? How do we heal our disconnection, individually and collectively? That's where we journey next. Because reconnecting isn't just possible, it's necessary. And it starts right now. Carl Jung didn't leave humanity lost in existential despair. He offered a clear path back to the collective unconscious, a journey inward, toward reconnection, meaning, and wholeness. This path isn't complicated, but it demands courage, honesty, and openness to realms beyond your ego's understanding. So how exactly do you begin reconnecting to the collective unconscious consciously and intentionally? First, you must start recognizing symbols again, not as abstract curiosities, but as powerful messengers of your psyche. Every day, symbols surround you. They appear in dreams, spontaneous thoughts, emotional reactions, and subtle synchronicities. Your first step is to slow down enough to notice them. Keep a symbol journal. Write down dreams, synchronicities, and repeating themes. Pause regularly. Ask yourself, what is this image, emotion, or moment trying to show me? Trust your intuition. Symbols don't speak logically, they speak intuitively. Allow meaning to arise naturally. This practice alone begins to reconnect you, opening dialogue with your unconscious, which in turn opens the door to the deeper collective layer of the mind. Next, honor your dreams as sacred communications. Dreams are your most direct access to the collective unconscious. Treat them with reverence, curiosity, and care. Keep a dedicated dream journal. Reflect on dream imagery daily, amplifying symbols through myths, stories, or archetypal references. Engage dream figures directly through active imagination. Ask them questions and patiently await answers. When you cultivate this relationship, your dreams become powerful guides, helping you navigate challenges, revealing hidden truths, and reconnecting you deeply to universal wisdom. Jung emphasized active imagination, a direct dialogue with unconscious images, as essential for reconnecting to the collective unconscious. Regularly create space for this sacred inner dialogue. Find quiet time each day, even 10 minutes. Invite a spontaneous image or symbol from dreams, memories, or imagination. Engage the symbol in conversation. Ask it questions like, who are you? Why are you here? What wisdom do you bring? Listen without judgment. Record insights. Trust the process. Active imagination creates a bridge between your conscious mind and deeper layers. It transforms abstract symbols into living allies and guides. Ritual and creativity are essential reconnection points. Jung knew art, ritual, and symbolic actions speak directly to the unconscious. Whether it's lighting a candle each morning, drawing spontaneously, or writing poetry without judgment, creative rituals help you transcend logic and directly access symbolic truths. Try this. Daily symbolic rituals, lighting candles, meditation, simple ceremonies honoring personal insights. Expressive arts, paint, write, dance intuitively. Allow the unconscious to express freely, without censorship. Engage myths and stories actively. Read ancient tales, noticing resonance. Let yourself live their symbolism. Through ritual and creative acts, you bypass rational barriers, speaking directly to your deeper psyche. Another step is consciously engaging archetypal stories, heroes' journeys, creation myths, initiation tales. Find stories that resonate deeply with your own life experience. Reflect on your life as mythic journey. Where are you now? Wilderness, initiation, rebirth? Recognize archetypal energies within you: warrior, healer, trickster, magician. Don't judge them, embrace them. Honor these archetypes through creative rituals, symbolic actions, or personal storytelling. By intentionally engaging archetypal energies, you reconnect directly to universal patterns in the collective unconscious. Jung understood collective reconnection isn't purely individual. Community and shared experiences are essential. Join communities exploring depth psychology, mythology, dream work, or creative expression. Share symbols, dreams, and insights openly. Collective exploration amplifies symbolic wisdom. Engage in meaningful rituals, storytelling circles, or collective creativity, reinforcing communal psychic bonds. Community reconnects you not just inwardly but outwardly, building soulful bonds that nourish collective wisdom and healing. Learn to trust synchronicity, the collective unconscious reaching out in daily life. Pay attention to meaningful coincidences, repeated symbols or numbers, unexpected meetings or conversations that deeply resonate, sudden clarity arising from seemingly random events. Jung believed synchronicities were direct signals guiding you back home. Trust them. Follow their hints. Allow yourself to be guided, even without immediate rational understanding. Finally, Jung emphasized living mythically, not just intellectually. Individuation, reconnection, and collective healing aren't intellectual exercises, they're existential transformations. Consciously live your life as a mythic journey. Each challenge is symbolic, each triumph meaningful. Approach relationships, careers, conflicts, and decisions symbolically. Ask, what archetype is active here? Let symbolic wisdom inform daily choices. Don't just analyze, live the symbolism daily. When your life becomes a living symbol, you fully reconnect with collective psychic wisdom. You become a conscious participant in humanity's shared soul. Reconnecting to the collective unconscious is not merely psychological. It's spiritual, existential, transformative. Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." This awakening awaits you now. It's never too late to reconnect, to reclaim symbolic depth, communal wisdom, and universal meaning. This path may not always be easy, comfortable, or clear, but Jung assured us it was necessary, beautiful, and profoundly fulfilling. Because the collective unconscious isn't merely a psychological theory. It's home, your original psychic source where meaning, purpose, and soul await you. You're not alone on this journey. Humanity walks with you. Jung walks with you. And now, you have the keys to return home. The question is not whether you can reconnect, but whether you choose to. The invitation stands. Your journey inward begins now. Subscribe to the Awakened Compass and join our membership to unlock the full journey within.